Getting ready for bed at a regular time is one of the most important habits you can learn.
Who you gonna call?
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Oh, Laurie, scared another one away.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
We are counselors at Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. There is a swarm of bears.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome back to another fabulous and wonderful episode of the Screen Stream. Now, we are on episode 30, and episode 30 is a wonderful episode, I'm not gonna lie. This starts off our beautiful summer horror fest where I'm gonna be watching and talking about any horror-related summer titles, such as Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, and many more titles that not just summer camp field, but also just summer field. So that also includes Texas Chainsaw Massacre and shit like that. But we're going to kickstart this beautiful summer tour with one of my favorite recently found summer-filled movies, and that is Pearl and X. Now, this week we'll be talking about Pearl, next week we'll be talking about X. I wanted to start off with Pearl, though, because I originally watched it where I watched X first, then Pearl. And Pearl, of course, is the origin stories for the crazy woman in X. And for those who don't know anything about it, go watch it. Like, seriously, go watch that movie. It's a fun trip of a gore fest of a movie, which is funny because it's completely different to Pearl's filmography, if that makes any sense. If not, I'll explain. See, with Pearl, this one, of course, is set in the early 1918s, unlike the, I think it said 1979 was where X was filmed at, or set at. So this is like 60 some odd years beforehand. We get to meet Pearl and learn a lot about her as a character and as an individual. And I'm going to be honest, I actually feel sorry for her. Usually I don't like a lot of horror movies that, you know, explicitly tell us the origin stories or the background stories of our beloved horror icons of the movie, because sometimes it gives away the mystique and the cool factor about them. Because, you know, like with Jason, for the longest time is, okay, so he drowned as a child, right? Why is he a grown-ass man? Was he really dead to begin with? Was the mother just crazy? Like, it left you with a lot of, you know, wondering questions. And then as the movies progress even further, it's then solidified, yeah, he was a young boy who drowned, and then somehow he got brought back to life, and then died, and then brought back to life again, and it just became like a weird cycle, till eventually he wound up in space. And you only send them in space when you want them to officially die. But that was back in the early 2000s. But I digress. The point is, once you start telling us more information about these iconic characters, sometimes it can ruin the mystique of these characters and kind of ruin the horror factor you have of these characters. But I also am a firm believer as well that it could also add to the character and make more sense of the character as you're watching it, but it only works in a few select kind of horror movies. Or more, not even more movies, but more like types of genres in certain aspects. Like elevator horror. When it comes to elevator horror, it can work really well. I've seen it done really well, especially by A24, who did this movie. And like Lighthouse, Midsummer, of course X as well. It adds a lot more information to the characters, especially like take Midsummer with Danny. Like when you start learning, okay, more about her sister and how she felt, you start understanding why she ended up becoming basically the villain by the end of the movie. And y'all can argue and say it's just desserts villain, but she's still a villain nonetheless. She straight up killed her boyfriend at the end. He deserved it, but straight up, don't get me wrong. Boyfriend was a villain too, but two villains don't make a hero here. Maybe eventually I will talk about that one. I don't know if I want to talk about it for the Summer Tour Fest. I got a couple of weeks, so maybe. I did like it, and it is a very summer-filled movie. Because I think it takes place before they're supposed to start school. I want to say it was Danny's boyfriend was a college student, and he was writing a thesis on, on the little village that they end up going to. But again, I digress. The point is, elevator horror is a hit or miss when it comes to character development, because it's either too much information is given out, especially in boring dialogue and sleepless writing. And I'm looking at Hereditary for that. No offense, guys. There could be plenty of people who rile behind that movie. I am just not one of those people. I really did not find that one entertaining at all. Very boring, very, cliche. I called a lot of shit a mile away, and the fact that the only thing that makes this movie great is the one scene. And we all know the one scene, because that's the one scene anyone can ever talk about when it comes to that movie. But yet again, guys, I digress. The point is, it works for this movie. The character development and the origin story works for this movie. It adds a lot more layers to Pearl. Well, we didn't get to learn a lot about her come the X movie. We get to see her kind of snap and kill a bunch of people. But it is interesting to see why and what kind of triggered her. And I can get it, especially watching this movie. It's such a tragic movie. But that bitch is crazy, though. I'm not going to lie. There was something always wrong with her. And even she pointed that out. There's something always wrong with her. And I give Howard 10 out of 10 points for wanting to stay with her, especially by the end of this movie. But this movie is directed by Ty West, who also did X, and he did a really good movie called The Innkeepers that I thoroughly enjoyed. Of course, Mia Goth and Wes ended up writing this together, apparently during quarantine. I think it was a 2-week quarantine they had in New Zealand. They ended up getting on a FaceTime and talking about the script and everything, and I'm glad she got her hands on it. It really made her writing really stand out, especially the fact that she's acting it out, because she's also the star of this movie. Fantastic job, I'm going to be honest. Mia Goth as Pearl is an amazing actress. She really, this movie is a good example for a good character study, such as, Joker is a good character study for the Joker. This is a good character study for people like Pearl. And there are people like Pearl, and I don't mean just like the psychotic break, but people who go through similar things Pearl has gone through. I mean, hell, I can admit I've gone through some of the shit Pearl's gone through. Not the killing, the hashing, and the slashing, but the wanting to achieve a dream and being told that your dream is stupid and it makes you weak and shit like that. Yeah, so watching her really go from a sweet, innocent, kind of childlike. I'm not gonna lie, Mia Goth portrays Pearl almost childlike and whimsical at some points, where she's lost in her own fantasies and her daydreams. And then at a drop of a dime, she can turn psycho. And I don't mean just oh yeah, I'm gonna kill you, psycho. No, she's got tears because she's angry. She's angry and she wants you to tell her the truth. And we all seen that infamous scene in the barn when she's arguing with the projector about, why are you leaving me? What have I done? What did you see? That is a key example of the drop of a dime situation, where she can go from whimsical, childlike, to psychotic and very emotional. And those are two very dangerous combination, fucking angry and emotional. But other fine actors in this movie, we got David Cornwest, who does the projectionist, Emma Jenkins, who I'm pretty sure played Mitzi, I think that's her name, M-I-T-S-Y, Mitzi. Alistair Sewell played Howard. We mainly get more of him as pictures. I think he shows up near the end for a one line, just Pearl, I'm home, and oh my god. Matthew Sutherland, I was curious myself when I heard Sutherland. I wonder if he's related to Keith Sutherland or Donald Sutherland. Now I can't fucking say his name. And I love Keither too. I love him. He's one of my favorite actors. Donald too. Donald's a fantastic actor. But yeah, I was just curious myself if he has any relations to them. But he plays Pearl's father. Funny enough, looking up his filmography, he plays a lot of dads. Like, shit you not, it's just like he plays father, dad. I'm just like, can this man not get a name? Does he just have to be called father? And then Tandy Wright, who plays Ruth. Fantastic job. I loved hating her. I'm not gonna lie, I loved hating her. Like, the moment she came on screen, I was like, I don't like you. I don't like you already. Like, I remember specifically watching it the first time, and I was like, this woman's just heartless and cruel. And even watching it the second time, I still stand by that point. I don't give a shit if she was trying to bring her back to reality. There were nicer ways to do this shit, and she just... jealousy. You could feel the jealousy off this woman, the enviness of this woman, and it's done super well. I mean, to the point, I actually researched a little bit into her. Apparently, she did such a good job with her German accent, because she's not actually German, but she did such a good job. She actually fooled two German people that were working on the set. Apparently, they didn't know she wasn't German. They thought she was because she spoke it so well. Thank God she took classes for it, like, not gonna lie. But fun fact about her, apparently she was the intimate choreographer for the movie X. So she helped during some of the intimate scenes there in X, and then she was just the mother here. She was just Ruth here. And I love that. I love that somebody who worked from behind the scenes worked in front of the scenes, because it kind of ties in with the movie X, where I want to say, which character was it? Again, I'll have to watch it next week for the podcast, but because it's been a minute since I've seen this movie. But I want to say one of the characters works like behind the scenes of the particular porno film they're doing in that movie, and then suddenly she becomes the star. It's kind of like that. I like the similarities. Oh god, what's that old saying? Life imitating art or something like that. I love it though. I love it. But yeah, fine actors. They all did a great job, even though some of them we only got a lot of pictures from. And the fucking Matthew just... I'm not gonna lie. The man may not have said a single word in that movie, because his character, if you haven't seen the movie, which, by the way, guys, spoilers, if I need to say any more spoilers ahead, I would be spoiling this entire movie. But, yeah. The dad is basically, like, paralyzed and catatonic and can't really say anything. He just sits there. Drew looks like he had a terrible stroke, to be honest. Like, whatever has happened, because they don't explain to us what exactly is wrong with him, but he looked like he had a bad stroke. And he can't speak or anything. But the way this man acts in some scenes with just his eyes, you can feel the fear of God coming from him, because he is terrified, especially after seeing Pearl do certain things in this movie. He is scared, and 10 out of 10, man, that is acting with your eyes. But yeah, fantastic job all the way around. So a couple little fun facts before we dive straight on into this fun-ass horror movie. Of course, this movie takes place during World War I, with the Spanish flu going around, which really helped during filming of this movie. I want to say they filmed this shortly after quarantine. Like, they met up during the quarantine in New Zealand on FaceTime. But I want to say they filmed it shortly after, where some of it was becoming less restrictive. So they were able to film. So it really did help that the fact that everyone had to wear masks, especially in, like, big groups and stuff. So when Pearl goes out in the town in one scene, she's wearing the mask, it doesn't feel weird, you know, and of course it lines up to what was going on in the real world at the time, so it just fits kind of cool. Another little fun fact I learned, first of all, I'm going to tell y'all this. I died laughing trying to picture this in my head. It's that scene where Pearl goes to meet with the projectionist for the second time, and he shows her that film, and it's a dirty film. I died laughing trying to picture what a stag film would look like. Cause again, it's all silent. It's all black and white silent movies here. So we're watching the actions of intimacy going on, and then of course like a cue card's got to pop up and just go, yes, daddy, spank me harder, and then the next thing you know, we cut back to them being intimate, and he's just spanking the hell out of her. It's like a funny fucking image in my head, just trying to picture this shit. I didn't have to picture it for too long because, fun fact, everybody, it's actually a real stag film. It's called A Free Ride or A Grass Sandwich. It's got a story to it. Apparently a man picks up 2 women just because they're walking. There's a lot of voyeurism and stuff going on in that movie. It was super weird. I didn't even write it down because it was just super weird to read, but I was just like, okay, this thing has a whole story and everything. Like, I was just surprised. I was surprised at all that was a thing. Yeah, so it's real. It's real. Another little fun fact. Of course, we know Pearl is part of a trilogy set of movies Ty West is doing. It's like it feels like a love letter to the movies in general. Of course, Pearl feels more like a love letter to the old 1918 films, 1920s, 1930s. With the whimsical music, the Technicolor, of course, the imagery for the Wizard of Oz. Like, there's a lot of imagery that reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. Like, several key moments, I'm just like, that seems like Wizard of Oz. That's definitely Wizard of Oz. That looks like that bitch from Wizard of Oz. Like, straight up. Which I'm not complaining or anything, because it really sets the tone of this movie. And then, of course, you got, Eggs, which is like a groundhouse, 1970 gore-fest bloody movie. Which, if anybody who's seen good 70s horror movies, they're just chock full of unnecessary violence and gore. But that was the shock value of the time, especially the fact that the 1970s, especially 79, was that pinnacle point for adult movies, which is what they're filming in X. I'm not quite sure what the next one's going to be. We'll have to see. I don't think they quite got it out yet. I know, fortunately with Pearl and X, because they literally filmed them at the same time. I think they started filming Pearl first, then X, and then they had like some filming moments between the two. But yeah, that's why we got those out pretty fucking quickly. But unfortunately, this third one, we're gonna have to wait a minute. Which I'm not upset about, because I think it's done, these last few movies have been really good, and I love the love letter to these movies. I really do. These movies are really good, really great. Something else I noticed about this movie is the clothing. What I mean by that is, you'll notice Pearl throughout most of this movie is wearing her work outfit, which is overalls and a t-shirt. She got her hair all done up and the little pigtails and shit all put up out of her face and everything. And she got her boots. She's got to do the typical chores and go out and get the medicine, take care of dad and all that shit. But when she goes out to go see the projectionist or has a daydream or she's fantasizing, she's in these beautiful, bright, vivid garments, which, funny enough, are garments that her mother wears, who she in return actually wears pretty dull looking clothing now, which means she's not even wearing these brightly vivid colors anymore, which is kind of a symbolism, or at least I felt like it was kind of a symbolism, that this woman used to wear these beautiful gowns and pretty dresses and shit. I can't even say gowns, they're more like simpleton dresses, but they're beautiful. I mean, hell, Pearl in the iconic poster that we see right over here, and even at the end of the movie, it's a bright, vivid dress that her mother used to have. So at one point she did wear this, but when did she stop? When did the misery set in that like a child having to grow up, she gave up these bright, vivid colors for this very dull, pathetic, I was going to say dull, pathetic life, but it's dull, pathetic clothing, which kind of represents her dull, pathetic life she feels. And we'll get there when we get there, but there's an entire scene that I just love. I loved it the second time around, especially the emotion behind the scene. Like, we know about Pearl's monologue, but I agree people tend to overlook Ruth's monologue, and I think her monologue is pretty fucking good too, even though it's shorter than Pearl's. Don't get me wrong, Pearl's is like 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes long. But Ruth's got a really powerful monologue. But yeah, I noticed about the clothing though, and that even towards the end, the clothing still represents who they are and where they are at as the movie progresses. Another thing I noticed is also the coloring of the movie itself. I don't mean just like the technical feel we see when we look at the farm and everything. I mean like the coloring of the house. Because granted, in X, because it's been like over 60 some odd years at this point, you know, everything's kind of toned down. You know, the lighting has affected, dust, you know, just the lack of cleaning, especially being an older couple in that movie. You know, but you'll see like the wallpaper peeling and like the doors being all like old and moldy and like chipping the paint away. And it's kind of neat to see the house look so bright and clean. Even though it's old and rustic, it still looks so clean compared to what it looked like in X. Like especially like the red on the barn and the wallpaper in the kitchen and everything just looks fantastic. And it's in the detail. It's just the detail, especially comparing it to the X. I love it. I really simply love it because you could just tell that when they filmed X, all they had to do was just take the sets from Pearl and just tone them down a little bit, rip them, make them look older, pat them down, water fill them up, shit like that. Also, there's also a reoccurring theme of rot. Just death and decay and rot. That theming is all over this fucking movie. I've noticed that from like the Spanish flu, the fact that in the monologue she talks about rot. There's that rotting pig that we see throughout the movie once Mitzi's and her mom brings it in. You have, of course, the parents smell rotting smells and shit. Like there's just a lot of rot in this movie, a lot of death, decay, and it's not overused or overplayed, and it's done really well. But let's go ahead and dive straight on this movie because it is just a fun and beautiful movie. So one of the key aspects as we open up into this movie is the whimsical music. Now, not only is it very like 1920s music with a lot of strings and, you know, big orchestras and everything like that, but again, it feels like very Wizard of Oz. It really does with you know, you open up the barn doors and we got the beautiful sun just dripping down with the clouds and the bright, vivid blue sky and the yellowness of the house and everything just really pops out. And it feels very, you know, whimsical, and especially with the music just chiming in and just picking up in the score. Yeah, it's great. It really is. And you'll see throughout this movie that there are key points that where the musical number or the whimsical music really makes it feel unsettling, especially the scarecrow scene. We'll talk about that when we get there. But once we, you know, get done with that whole opening and everything, we go into the house and we see Pearl. She's standing in front of this mirror and she's wearing this cute little pink dress. She's fixing up her hair and she's just checking herself out in the mirror. And then suddenly she just goes in the daydream world. She starts daydreaming about dancing because she loves dancing. That's like her favorite thing in this whole world. She just wants to dance. But you give her credit. I give her credit. Dancing is a good choice, especially back in 1918. That's a good choice. But, you know, because she's so filled in her own fantasy, she doesn't hear her mom come busting on in, who ruins the fantasy. And with the most cold, I mean, like everything just stops and becomes cold. Like the music, like the whimsical music just stops. Fucking Pearl's daydream of her on the stage dancing just stops. Just mom walks in, shuts down. Just coldest tone ever in German. Just, where did you get this dress? Why are you wearing my dress? Take it off and go do your chores. Just so cold. Just no. Hi, Pearl. Honey, listen, take my dress off. You can look at it later. Could you go do your chores? You know, no niceness. No, just harsh reality. Just harshness. And I understand why she's so harsh. But I don't like it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it. I get she's trying to bring, not necessarily bring her down, but get her heads out the clouds. Just, okay, you want to do this dancing thing. It's just, you're reaching too far. Like, be in reality. This is reality. We're in a famine. We got the Spanish flu going on. Your husband's at war. Just stick to reality. Work on the farm. I need your help. Which, unfortunately, I feel like Mom, I'm not saying she doesn't do anything on the farm, but what does she do besides bitch, cook, and chop firewood? Like, straight up. Like, I hate to be that, and I really hate to be that type of person, you know, to judge her like that, but the fact is, she's sitting there chastising Pearl for getting lost in the fantasy daydream for a minute, which, again, we can forgive her because she's, I want to say, 17, maybe 18, could be 16. She's young, though. I want to say about anywhere between 16 and, like, 19 years old. That's my give and take. I should have looked up her age. I'm not 100% sure what age Pearl's supposed to be at this time. But she's still a young teenager, or like an older teenager, as I say. A young teenager's like 13, 14. But the point is, she's still a teenager. Of course, she's going to get lost in her fantasy worlds and her whimsical moments. I'm sorry you became a bitter old hag who lost your dreams because God dealt you a terrible hand in life. That seems like a personal problem. That's just me. But yeah, Mom comes in there, ruins her whole number, coldly sends her out to the barn. So she goes back into her daydream in some aspect. As she's feeding the animals, she's like, oh, y'all are the best audience I've had. You know, y'all are so cute. And she's petting them. And she's just going on and on about just getting out of here. That farm life is not for her. Like, life could be grander and better for her. And she's picking up this pitchfork. And she climbs on top of this little pile of hay bales. And she's just like, I am a star. Which she says that a lot, by the way. That's like her favorite word. Just, I am a star. I am a beautiful star. And she's all into this. And then it gets ruined by Mr. Goose. I'm laughing because first of all, she calls him Mr. Goose. And second of all, what did Mr. Goose do? Like, Mr. Goose just was doing goose things. Mr. Goose was just walked to the barn, kind of did his little goose call, just, and it ruined her daydream. She climbs down, she walks over to him with the pitchfork in hand, and she's just like, how'd you get in here, Mr. Goose? Oh, it'll be okay, Mr. Goose. It will be okay. And then she straight understands Mr. Goose. So it's like, you psychotic bitch. Granted, though, that is a key sign of a psychopath, of a killer. That's one of the first indications that you might be dealing with a serial killer is they kill small animals. Small defenseless animals that can't hurt them back. She even says that during her monologue at the end. But the point is, that's a key sign of a psychopath. So we know she's not all right in the head to begin with. But what she does next really kind of hammers the mood. And I'm going to say just straight up, just, yeah, she crazy. She cray. But she's taking Mr. Goose, and she's got him on the pitchfork, by the way. She goes all the way to the lake. She calls out for her gator Theta, and she's like, come on, girl, come and get it. Yeah, you want it, don't you? Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? And the gator comes up and eats it. And right as that happens, we get the title card, Pearl, and the whimsical music and shit. And it really just feels so so like a 1920s movie. I'll be saying that a lot throughout this whole movie podcast moment, I'm not gonna lie, but it truly does. It feels like a 1920 movie with the title card, especially like a 1920s monster film. It felt like, compared to the opening, which felt like more like The Wizard of Oz. This felt more like a moment from like a monster film or a monster flick or something like that, with all the heavy brass instruments they ended up using and shit. But after all that shenanigans, we cut to Mom cooking, because again, that's all Mom does: cook, chop wood, and bitch. So she's cooking, and as they're cooking, just coldest tone ever, still in German, just tells her she needs to give up her fantasies about dancing, stop all this childish daydreaming, just do your chores, don't think of anything else, just stop it. And she's just like, well, Mom, there's nothing wrong with it. And she's like, oh yeah, it is. There's something definitely wrong with this, because I need you here working. I'm the only one doing anything in this house. I'm the only one doing anything, and you don't help. And when I'm missing a beat, she's like, I help. Which I agree, she helps. I mean, I'm sorry. I'll say it again. I don't see her taking care of her own husband. I really don't. I see her ordering her daughter to do it, feed him, bathe him. When does she do this? Like, I saw her hang out with him one time, and that is when they were outside picking fruits at some point in the movie. He's in his little wheelchair, just all bundled up, and she's just picking the fruits. That's the only time I ever saw them actually hanging out together. Other than that, it's always Pearl. Pearl do this, Pearl do that. And maybe occasionally she might grab him to go take him to the bedroom or something. But because of that, she makes Pearl go get her dad. And as she's about to walk out, of course, she sees the newspaper. She picks it up. And the headline is about not only the Spanish flu that's going around, killing millions of people. We also have the Allies of... God, what was the title? It's like the Allies invade France or something. But basically kind of letting us know that World War I is nearing the end of the war itself. Because of, like I said, she has a husband. I want to say I said something. If not, I'll say it again. She has a husband, right? And he went to the war, so she's super excited that he might come back, because she needs something to keep her in reality, okay? Like, I'm going to be dead ass, and she might have some resentment towards that man, but we need him to keep her from going crazy. And we even see that in X. But as she's just like, oh my God, Mom, the war could be over. Mom just cuts her off. Just says, you can read it after dinner. I don't want to hear about any more dead Germans. Go get your father. So, of course, Pearl reluctantly goes get him. And we get to a pretty decent dinner scene. Not the greatest. It kind of sets down like a tone for the rest of the dinner scenes we get. It's very tension filled, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you could just feel the tension between Pearl and her mother, like, straight up. And poor Dad's just caught in the middle, just like helpless to do anything except just sit there and gargle a little bit. But as we sit down, we do a little prayer, of course, and we're about to eat. And Pearl, she's going ham on her dinner. And Ruth, of course, is just like, no, feed your father. Go feed your father first. She keeps on eating, though, while Pearl's got to stop and feed her daddy. Again, I have issues with this. I have issues, especially during the argument later on. So as we get done with that, like, small little tense moment of her reluctantly feeding her dad, we get this little monologue intercut with Pearl reading these lovely letters from her husband, talking about the horrors of war and what's going on, and how his only thing keeping him going is just her at home, and he loves her forever, and he can't wait to come home, and all the pre-usual shenanigans a lot of husbands told their wives during this time of need and war, because it was crazy out there. It really was. And a lot of those guys needed something to look forward to. So after that, Pearl is now sitting in the bathtub after bathing her dad, and she is feeding him medicine and talking about tomorrow she's going to town. She can't wait because that's when she gets to go see the movies, which is like the highlight of her week, I'm assuming, you know. Like, she gets super excited. She loves to go to the movies. She loves the movies. And that's like one of her, you know, again, one of her main passions is to be a dancer in the movies. And like I said, this whole trilogy of movies is a love letter to movies, but not just the movies themselves, but the actions of the people behind let me re-say that. The actions of the people in this movie. A lot of them are, you know, wanting to do something because it has something to do with the movies. Again, Pearl, prime example here. She is so desperate to be a star, she's willing to do anything. She even says that. Like, she was willing to do anything to be a dancer in the movies. So it really makes her smile when she has to go to the movie. So you can tell when she's talking about going and she's super excited. It's almost, again, that childlike wonder she had when she's doing her little dancing in front of her little farm animal friends in front of the mirror and everything. It's like the innocent part of her. It's the innocent part. And that's what really breaks me, because we get to see her lose this innocent part. And it's really sad. It truly is. But, of course, Mom interrupts them, reminding her, you know, when you go in, don't forget to wear a mask, chains on the table, blah, blah, blah. Per usual, grabs the dad and rolls him on out. And what was also great about this particular scene while she's talking to her dad is that she's so lost. Like I said, she's very, lost in her childlike wonder and imagination. She's saying she could be just as good as them, just as good as these other actresses and dancers because they're perfect, and she's going to be perfect. And she's kicking up water with her legs. She's giggling and shit. So, it really informs the fact that she can be an innocent child in a way. She thinks like an innocent child. And that's sad. Because, I think as adults and teenagers, we all had that split time in our lives where we still have that childlike wonders. Granted, we're like 17, 18, 19 years old, still with those childlike wonders. Hell, some of us could be in our fucking 30s or 40s, still having those childlike wonders. But eventually, we gotta come back to reality. We gotta get that harsh taste of the truth. And it's, sometimes we're not gonna get our dreams. We're not gonna get what we want. So we all know the inevitable truth, and unfortunately, Pearl's got to go through that. Pearl's got to understand that, and it sucks. It truly does. Because, again, let's just continue on. Y'all will see. So as we cut into the next day, Pearl's in town, and this is one of those Wizard of Oz moments with her on the bike, just pedaling on in. She really, oh God, what's the name of that woman? The old woman who hated Toto is like trying to kidnap him and stuff. There are several scenes where she looks just like her, especially near the middle of the movie. But she comes into town and she gets the medication, and it's like some good ass it's like straight up morphine. It's straight up morphine, liquid morphine. Some fine ass shit right there. She bought that for like 2 shillings almost. I wish sometimes our medication was still like that. I'm not gonna lie. Being dirt cheap and really good. And maybe not good for our health, but really good. If you're fucked up, you can't realize you're sick. But after she gets the medication, she goes to see a movie. It's something dancer, a flapper dancer, something like that. I don't quite know. But she goes in, she sits down. Of course, you hear someone, coughing in the theaters. She takes a swig of the medicine. She sits down. And before the movie, of course, it's like the 1920s. So there's always like a PSA in front of the movie you're about to watch. And there's always something to do with war. And for some fucked up reason, this one's about a dude with a melting skull or something. I don't know. It was very gross. Very, very unnecessary to show in a movie theater, but they decided to show it anyway. And then the movie starts. boy. This is just a cute little moment to show you just how much the movies mean to her. When she gets done with this movie, she doesn't just walk out. She doesn't just run out. No, she skips out. She is so giddy with excitement and love for what she just watched. She skips out, goes to this alleyway, and pulls up the pamphlet automatically and just starts reliving it. And that is somebody who truly enjoyed what they just saw. I know I've been there before. When I saw Wicked, I looked the exact same way. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the moment Wicked was done, I was skipping out of that fucking theater. I was happy as hell. Like, I truly was. So I get that. I understand that. Well, while she's back there, though, a handsome gentleman named the Projector. That's literally his name. He's not given it any other name. But a handsome man comes out and offers her a cigarette, asks her if she liked the movie, and she's like, yeah, I love it, you know. And he proceeds to go, well, you know, if you want, I can show you a second showing for free of charge, of course. And she's like, no, I gotta get home and take care of my dad, you know, because of the Spanish influenza, you know, it's not looking so good. And then, of course, she ends up talking about her husband being off in war and everything. So he's well aware of the fact that she's got a husband. Because even, you know, he's just like, so you got a boyfriend, a husband across seas? Yeah, I do. Like, bro. Because it's rather obvious. He's flirting with her hardcore. Like, he does not make it a secret. I don't know if Pearl's aware of it at some points, or if it's just her instincts that she automatically wants to flirt back. But the point is, he's flirting hardcore with her and telling her all the right things. Like, everything she would want to hear. Hell, everything I would want to fucking hear at that time. Just, you know what, live your dreams. You know, it's admirable of you to take care of your family in this time of need. It's so great, but don't forget to live your dream. Do what makes you happy. You know, shit like that. And then, of course, he offers her, you know, anytime you want to come by, just come knock on this door. She smiles, and before she walks off, he stops her and goes, hold on for a second. Grabs a film reel of the movie she just saw, takes a little frame out and gives it to her. And she's like, oh, do you think anybody's going to notice? Oh, no, especially after I splice it together. No one's going to notice. But come back anytime. And, of course, she's so happy. She sticks it in her little front pocket, and she bicycles on off. And as she's bicycling on home, she's lost her own fantasies in her own world again. The little frame, unfortunately, whoops, flies right out of her pocket into the cornfield. She panics, of course, jumps down, starts trying to look for it. You could see the defeatedness on her face that she lost this precious thing to her. Like, you see, it's like she's trying to hold back tears. She doesn't want to cry. But she keeps on looking till she gets to this clearing. And there's a fucking scarecrow just chilling out there. Now, funny fact I noticed about this, it looks just like the scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. Yet again, another Wizard of Oz reference. So she sees the scarecrow, she climbs up on top, gets really close into his face, and goes, do you want to dance? And throws his ass down. She gets down, and the whimsical music starts picking up. As she picks up the scarecrow, she starts dancing. I'm talking about, like, getting all into it. Like, she's twirling, she's dipping it. Like, I'm surprised she didn't throw it up like a figure skater and try to do a 360 spin or some bullshit. You know, but she's all into it. She's just having a great field day of a time. And by the end of it, you know, you hear the audience cheering, applauding. The music's just gone. She tips the scarecrow down. She proceeds to kiss it and then makes out with it, tongue action and all. And she eventually opens her eyes and she sees it's the projectionist. It's him. And she drops him and just angrily screams out, I'm married. And everything is quiet. She looks at him and she sticks her hand up, or her finger up to her mouth, like the little shh, you know, don't tell anybody. I won't say anything. You won't say anything. And, you know, of course, what makes this scene even weirder is the fact that she's wearing his top hat. She's wearing the top hat from the Scarecrow. And I find it weird that she did take it home. Like, first of all, you don't know how long that Scarecrow's been out there. Second of all, you don't know who else has put that hat on their head. Third of all, why would you even do this with a scarecrow to begin with. But the point is, she's wearing a hat. And as she gets down, though, to the scarecrow, because she just saw the projecting his face, and she's all like, ooh, I won't say anything. You don't. She proceeds to be intimate with the scarecrow. And I don't mean like she takes his pants off or anything like that. She, proceeds to just dry fantasy it, just imagining it, just in her own little head. She's just feeling the friction and shit. Y'all get the picture. Especially it helps when you have the whimsical music playing in the background and it spikes up as soon as she climaxes and the fucking crows go everywhere. I'm like, that's fantastic symbolism right there. Like, straight up, just as soon as she and then the fucking crows come out, when the score's done playing. It's just like, that is some symbolism right there. We all know what she just did, and I bet she feels great. Like Tony the Tiger over there, I feel great. But eventually, after her little fantasy and her, I don't even know, good time we're gonna call it a good time. She makes it back home. And as soon as she gets home, of course, her mom's on her ass. She's like, what took you so long? Where have you been? Where did you get that hat? Leave the hat on the floor. Go take care of your father. And the whole time, she's just chopping firewood. But without missing a beat. Just bitching and chopping firewood. Again, that's the only 3 things she does in this house, yet again. So, of course, she goes, takes care of her dad, cleans him up and everything. She's scrubbing her hair, and she's telling the dad about the beautiful picture that she just saw, how grand it was. And, of course, dad only answers in like a kind of like a rough growl sound. And she takes her hand, puts it over his hand, and then proceeds to pinch it. Kind of, I guess get a feel of, like, how catatonic are you, my dude? Like, you're not even in there, are you? And she actually asks that. She leans in real close, and she asks, are you still in there? And proceeds to poke him. And again, like a child would poke, a grandparent or something. Just say, Granddaddy, you awake? But she starts poking him, and then proceeds to choke him out. And he, of course, goggling for air for a minute. She lets him go. I thought that was creepy as hell. Just, patricide right there. So we get to dinner. And this is, yet again, another tense. And you'll notice throughout this whole movie, the dinner table is like where it's at when it comes to fighting. The dinner table is where it's at. But Mom's sitting there and they're eating away, and Mom's just like, so where's the change? She goes, there is no change. I gave you money, there should be change. Well, I bought a little snack because it was such a long way to go. Okay. Mom grabs the soup and pulls it back and tells her, you ate your dinner when you bought that candy. We don't have enough to go around during this, time of famine and everything. First of all, I wanted to bitch slap the shit out of her right there. Like, I don't give a shit. Okay, I don't give a shit, a flying shit, if they did eat that candy. That was earlier that day. If we're in such a famine right now, that means y'all are starving. I don't think a little bit of extra candy is going to hurt her. And the fucking bitch had the audacity to say, something on the lines of, what I make in this house isn't free or anything like that. Basically saying because she worked on dinner alone, she can't have any. And that shit pisses me off. Like, you are a terrible fucking mom. Like, I don't give a shit. You are trying to keep her in reality and remind her that life sucks. You are a bitch. You are a real bitch for just taking food out of your own child's mouth because she bought candy. Even though we know that's a lie, she went to go see a movie instead. The point is, the mom didn't need to do that, the mom could have found a different punishment. Something like that. But, of course, Pearl gets mad, gets up to walk away, and she's like, I did not dismiss you. You come back here. And makes her sit back down. And she proceeds just to lay into her some more, just, talking down on her, saying that she needs to stop this daydreaming. No more of this daydreaming. You got to stop thinking selfish. You gotta realize we two are in this together. You gotta take care of your dad. We gotta take care of this farm. You know, you gotta stop acting weak. You're acting foolish with all these daydreams. Now you may leave. And basically after, you know, beating down her self-esteem, sends her on her way. This poor girl. And then this part of the movie gave me a little bit of hope for like half a millisecond to the end of the movie. So she gets, you know, into her bedroom, she prays to God, and she's like, God, just make me a star, please, just make me a star, I'll do anything, you know, just, if it doesn't happen, you know, I will give up these daydreams, but, you know, just please let it happen. And of course she goes to bed, and the camera pans over to the window, and we see this beautiful little shooting star, kind of like indicating to us as the audience, her wish may come true. She may become a star, yet nonetheless. So after that, we then cut back with Pearl, and she's working in the barn, milking the cow and stuff, and we see a nice fancy little car come pulling on up, and it's fucking Mitzi, her sister-in-law, and you could tell right off the bat they come from two different worlds. First of all, Mitzi comes in wearing a fox on her shoulder. I don't know if it's a fake fox, but it's a fox nonetheless. It is a fox straight up in all form of fashion. She's wearing like a very bright colored dress, nice sun hat, cute heels. She looks adorable, like super cute. She even makes a comment about it. Go, oh, I'm so glad to be dressing nice and cute today. But she walks up, and of course, Mitzi's mom's trying to give her, you know, Ruth this pig, you know, just trying to be nice and generous. And of course, the mom's like, oh, we don't want to take charity. We don't take charity. Like, bitch, you said we're in a famine. That's free food. I don't know who the hell you think you are and why you think you're better than everybody in this world, but take the free food, okay? Like, that, you don't even need to take the compliment, just take the free food. But while that's going on, Pearl and Mitzi are talking, you know, about Howard, you know, going off to war because, you know, originally he wanted to be a farm boy, and then, you know, he went to war, you know, despite his family, you know, because, you know, he's trying to stick it to the man, stick it to his family. And, you know, them sister-in-laws got to stick together and all this cute shit. And then eventually, Mitzi drops the big bomb that, you know, there's going to be this audition going on at this local church. And it's for this little church group that's going to be touring in a bunch of different little areas. And that's fantastic. You know, it's not that big of a deal. But to Pearl, it's a big fucking deal. Like, straight up. She literally takes this to heart. You know, and they agreed to go together, and that they're going to get this one way or another. There's going to be them auditioning for it. So, as this ends up happening, Pearl ends up going into another little daydream about being in the movie and all her own little fantasy world as she's getting like super excited to get dressed because she's going to go see the projectionist. Don't ask me why she suddenly wants to go see him, but she does. So she ends up, you know, kind of daydreaming a little bit and winds up going up into her mom's room and grabbing another one of her beautiful, bright colored outfits. I think it was a little pink one. And, of course, you know, she's looking out the window, make sure mom's not checking out. It's the one time we see mom and dad hanging out. Just the one time we see her actually taking care of daddy-o. But she ends up sneaking on out and taking her little top hat and grabbing on her bike and heading off to see the projectionist. And now this is another, like, Wizard of Oz moment. As she's riding her bike, we get this nice long shot of her trailing across the screen. And in some aspects, you can almost hear the Wicked Witch's theme song playing in the background almost. It feels like straight up it does. But we see her, of course, pull up to the movie theater. She puts the bike down. She goes, knocks on the door. He's happy to see her. Brings her on in. And they're, you know, he's talking about, you know, working at the movie theater and how it's great to be a projectionist. You know, he lives here. And she's like, oh, yeah, it must be great being able to watch movies all the time. And he's like, yeah, it's not that bad of a gig. And, well, you know, while she's sitting down, he's just like, so what movie do you want to see? And of course, she's like, oh, the one I saw earlier. And he's like, no. How about this one I picked up in France? So, I'm going to be honest, guys. So, like I said, I only watched this movie one other time. That was right when it first came out last year. So I completely forgot about this scene. Like, straight up, that's another reason why I died laughing trying to visualize this stag film. But the whole time, you know, he's setting up the film, you know, he's complimenting her, going, "You're beautiful enough to be on the pictures, you know, I would watch that, you know, you definitely got talent, I'm sure you'll ace your audition, you know, I say, you know, follow your dreams, you know, don't wait till the last minute, you know, I myself am a drifter, a bohemian person, so I travel whenever I want, and I say, why don't you go to Europe? You definitely do some good things in Europe." And he starts the film, and of course, you know, he brings her up there, and she's just like, "What kind of movie is this?" And then, like, even I was just like, "What kind of movie is this? This is an interesting movie." And the next thing I know, I see man pulling up a girl's dress and smacking her ass. I'm like, oh, you're one of those guys, aren't you? Like, straight up. Like, the dude had me going in the first half. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this guy's a really nice guy, a real gentleman. He's sweet. He's listening to her. He's giving great advice. And, he just wants to screw her. Yeah, that's it. He just wants to fuck her right there. That explains so much. But of course, she's turned off by the idea. You know, she's just like, I don't like these types of movies, you know, because it reminds her too much of reality. She likes her fantasy world, her make-believe. And he's all like, yeah, but I like these type of movies. I'm going to get ahead of the curve. You know, of course, these are legal movies. But in due time, these movies will become regular and normalized. Which, you know, is kind of true. You know, it took him probably a lot longer than he was expecting, but it is true. Eventually, those movies did become more mainstream and normal. Still a little taboo to talk about, but normal and not illegal nonetheless. But they sit down after watching the movie, and they're still chit-chatting, you know, about, you know, wanting to follow her dreams. She's like, well, if, you know, mom and dad die, then I'll be able to follow my dreams. And he's just like, well, why wait? You know, by that point, it could be too late. Then you never know what's going to happen. And she whispers out loud to herself, whispers nonetheless, I really wish my parents would just die, though. And he looks at her and he's just like, what? Nothing at all. Just, nothing. And she ends up, diverging that topic and going, well, it's just nice to have someone to talk to about this. You know, it's very lonely on the farm. I don't really have anybody I could talk to. And he's like, and she just asks him, well, did you really mean it, though, about seeing me up there, about seeing me in the movies? And he's like, oh, yes, especially in movies like this one. I would definitely watch you in movies like this one. Basically laying it out flat that he really, really wants to be intimate with her, like, straight up. But, of course, you know, she's just like, I gotta go. You know, thanks for the advice, though. I really appreciate it. You know, you're really great. And during the conversation, I forgot to mention, she ends up taking the little Tide Pod off and leaving it there for the next time she ends up going back. But, yeah, she ends up leaving after they talk about Europe some more, about going to Europe, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'll definitely take you there if you really want to go, you know. Anything he can literally say just to get into her pants. And I liked him at first. That's the sad part. I liked him at first. I gotta smack myself over that one. Just terrible tasting man. So with that, you know, with everything he said in her mind about, you know, not waiting till the last minute and all this shenanigans, she decides, let's do some action. So she decides to take her dad to the gator. And as she's strolling down there, she's talking to her dad. She's like, Daddy, you know, I love you. You know, this is no way to live life. You know, once you and Mom are out the way, you know, I could live my life. And, you know, things would be great. You know, Howard is supposed to be my ticket out of here. Because she was really counting on Howard taking her out of here. But Howard, of course, it did not go according to plan. We'll get there when we get there when it comes to the monologue. But she ends up slowly talking to her dad and getting closer and closer to the gator that is slowly coming up on the water. But fortunately enough, her mother interrupts her yet again, ruining not just the fantasy, but what she was really about to do. And of course, Mom's just like, what are you doing out here? Oh, nothing, just talking with Daddy. Everything's great, just talking to Daddy. Well, you need to bring him inside. You know, it's getting cold, we need to clean him up, we don't need him sitting in his stuff again. And she finally had enough, you know, of her chastising her. She looks at her and goes, why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? She eventually just straight up asked her, you know, why do you hate me? And Ruth just says, you know, I don't hate you. I'm just trying to get you ready for reality. You know, you're not going to always be able to do your dreams. You know, your dreams are your dreams for a reason. You need to appreciate what you have and make what's best of what you have. And that's something that sticks with her. She even repeats that, you know, make the best of what you got. Because that's unfortunately what Ruth has done. You know, she's been dealt a terrible hand, so she made the best of what she's got. And unfortunately, she's content in misery. That's literally it, and that's the sad part. She's just content in her misery. But after the unfortunately sad part about that conversation, I skipped a spot real quick. Something that I completely forgot about, because it's a small scene, but it says something about Ruth's character. So after leaving the projectionist and before she decides to take her dad to the gator, she comes back into the house and she hears her mom crying, just sobbing hysterically, just letting it all out, wailing. And that lets you know that Ruth is an emotional creature. She has feelings. I hate to say it, she's got feelings. And the feeling is of regret, jealousy, of fucking anger, depression, just every emotion you could feel. That cry is saying it right there, because again, she was dealt a bad hand. And we're about to get to the epic scene that's about to explain this. But, you know, that just says a lot about Ruth right there. Just the fact that it's still bothering her. The whole thing is breaking her. Life is breaking her. And her daughter is not helping. But she, frankly, is not helping her daughter either. And once that ends up happening, Pearl ends up going back to her room, laying down and looking at her husband's picture and going, what are you looking at? Like, how dare her husband sit there and judge her for the wrong she just committed? Which was clearly going over and watching a dirty film with a guy she don't know. But after that, and of course we got the gator scene and the mom stopping her and all this shit. One of the other things she says as the mom's walking off the dock, you know, not just, you know, make the best of what you got, but is you can't get what you want when you understand that you will be happier. Which, that's sad. Again, that's contentment in misery right there. That's just contentment in misery. The fact that she sees that she could maybe make the situation better. But she's being realistic and going, how can I make this better? I'm kind of stuck here during this famine, during World War I, during the Spanish flu, with a crazy daughter, with a fucked up husband. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, of course, you know, making the best of what she's got, which ain't that much. So, once they end up leaving, of course, Pearl, wondering where Theta went, her little gator, she ends up finding a beautiful little nest of gator eggs. So, she ends up grabbing one and taking it to the barn. And as she's at the barn, she puts it down and goes to walk off, but then the cow moves at her and distracts her. And I forget what she says to the cow, but it makes her go back up the stairs, picks up the egg again. She's holding it aggressively, by the way, very aggressively in her hand. And she's imagining her husband walking down the sidewalk towards their home and waving at her. So she just crushes the egg and imagines her husband exploding. and there's blood and yolk everywhere, and she just seems so happy in life. Just, okay, tell us how you really feel about your husband right now. Like, seriously, tell us how you really feel. You just blew him up in your own mind. So now we get to a really, really great scene. Like, I love this scene. This scene is done well, it's shot well, it's acted well, and just that the effects are well. So this is one of the biggest dinner scenes. It's about halfway through the movie. And to set the tone, it's dark, it's thunder and lightning outside, and tension has been building between Ruth and her daughter. And poor Daddy's stuck in the middle. So, they're eating quietly. No one's saying anything. Mom then suddenly, no reaction, no nothing, just suddenly grabs a piece of paper out of her pocket, unfolds it, puts it on the table. It's the pamphlet from the movie. And we see at some point she ended up hiding the pamphlet in the guest barn with the hat and everything. And of course she had like a interesting daydream about her being in the movie and, you know, just dancing like she's actually on the big screen and shit. Like, it was really nice. It was really nice. Little small scene though. But Mom puts the pamphlet down and starts chewing her out automatically. Just, why did you go? Because you went, now you must stay in the guest house for 2 weeks. Make sure you didn't bring anything home, because you are putting us in danger right now. And, you know, Pearl's just like, Mom, it's cold outside and it's raining. It's fucking thunderstorming outside and you want her to leave now? But, of course, you know, she's just like, just yelling at her about, you know, you're careless, you're selfish for doing this. And Pearl, just without missing a beat, just like, okay. Mama, there's a dance audition coming up, and it's Saturday, and I'm going. Like, she doesn't ask to go. She goes, I'm going. Just straight up, just, I'm going. Ruth goes, no, you're not. She goes, yes, I am going. Okay. Why? Why do you want to go? And this is where we learn a little bit more about Pearl and, you know, her dreams and aspirations. But it's something we already see as she acts it out throughout the first half of this movie. But she actually gets to say it now that this farm life is not for her. She wants bigger and better out there. And she feels like this is her ticket out. And Mom's just like, oh, so you think you're better than us now. You think this life is nothing. You've had shelter. You have a roof over your head. You have food in your belly. Why do you think you're suddenly too good for us now? Why? And she's just like, Mom, I don't think I'm, you know, good, but how am I supposed to, you know, do this? Like, how am I supposed to do this and not at least try? I gotta at least try. And that's, I'm gonna be honest. If I had a daughter and we were talking about this and she was like looking at me going, Mom, just let me try. Please let me try. If I fail my dreams, I'll come back and I won't say another word. Just let me try. Just begging her to go. If I had a child begging to go, I don't give a shit how cold of a woman I am. Is this something she really wants to do to at least try to better her life? I would give it a go. I would honestly give it a go. But because Ruth is so jealous, but also somewhat afraid. Because, okay, so let me explain this. I say she's jealous because of the fact that her daughter is younger, still has her ambitions, and still wants to pursue her dreams. Where Ruth, unfortunately, her dreams have been shattered and crushed and destroyed. But she also knows Pearl's not in her right mind. So as they're arguing, you know, about, you know, her being ungrateful and that she's not, you know, not going to go to this audition or anything like this, you know, Pearl just comes out and says, you know, I need to at least know my potential. Ruth, without missing a fucking beat, just like, oh, I know your potential. I seen what you do in private when you think nobody's looking. Alright? And that scares me, and I'm sure if other people saw it, it would scare them too. And those words haunt Pearl. Those words haunt her because of, she may not say it, but the fact that she acts the way she does when people reject her after being a little loopy herself, and the fact that her mom has just pointed this out really just aggravates her even more. Like, it really does. And it would aggravate the hell out of me. But as they're arguing back and forth, still though, about, the fact she'll never leave this place because she's too dangerous, or not dangerous, but unwell, and it's not okay, and she scares everybody, and that she'll never leave this farm. Pearl just goes, "You can't stop me." This is where Ruth's monologue just breaks the hell open. Ruth. First of all, this bitch goes fucking psycho. I'm talking about psycho. Like, again, we wonder where Pearl gets it from. She gets it from her mother, straight up. Her psychotic tendencies come from her mother, because fucking Ruth grabs a big-ass kitchen knife, right? Like, she straight up does. But she's like, "How about me, Pearl? How about me? I married a man to be his wife, not his mother." And she grabs that kitchen knife and then puts it up to her husband's throat. And it's just like, "Why don't I kill him to save you the burden of taking care of him and doing it yourself? Then we both get to go to the dance audition. We both get to go and live our dreams." She slams the knife down into the table. And she's like, "You want to leave? Go, leave. But remember, when you fail, and you will, I want you to remember that feeling, because every time I look at you, that is how I feel. And I want you to remember that." And fucking Pearl, just in a small, whimpering voice, just goes, "Mama, I just don't want to be like you." Oh, fucking Ruth does not handle that well at all. Ruth walks up to her, just slaps the shit out of her. I'm talking about just bitch slap across the face. Fucking Pearl retaliates by slapping her across the face. And Ruth just grabs her by the shoulder, neck area, and just go, "You're a harlot. You know that. You think you're better than me." And Pearl turns her around and slams her against the fireplace, and she yells. I'm talking about blood-curdling scream of, "I know I'm better than you. I'm better than this life. I am a star." And fucking Mom, she didn't wear her unflammable outfit for the day, unfortunately, so she gets caught on fire by the fireplace, and her whole back end and half her body gets caught up in flames, and she's thrailing around and thrashing around, and Pearl, trying to help, but really doesn't help at the same time, I'm assuming, grabs the boiling pot of water corn and throws it on her mom to put her out. And of course, Mom's just burnt to a crisp at this point, just sizzling and all. And she turns her around, and of course, Mom's just, Mom's somehow still alive, but she don't look good at all. And she looks at Dad, and Dad's just sitting there like, "Oh my God!" But again, he can't say anything except some gargling noises. And then she grabs her mother and aggressively and violently drags her down the stairs to the basement, and her head is just boom, 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 every fucking step as they're going. She just drags her in the middle of the basement, walks up the stairs, slams the door, runs out to go screw the projectionist dude. Like, straight up just runs in the rain and everything. Gets on her bike, just gets there, knocks on the door. As soon as he opens it, she just straight up starts making out with him right then and there. It's a crazy, crazy night. So while she is, having wonderful, wonderful relations with a strange man she never met, After that, she ends up having a dream of her once again on the big screen, dancing, having a good time. People are applauding, they're throwing roses at her feet. And then she sees her mom and her husband and her dad all sitting there clapping too. And her mom takes off the mask and her face is half burned and chewed up. And it's almost like her dreams are now meeting her reality. The reality is her mom's fucked up. Her dad's going to be fucked up later on. And it's smashing with her dream of being a dancer. And none of this is going great. But she wakes up and she realizes, oh no, I got to get ready for the audition. I got to be perfect. So she starts getting dressed. And of course, projecting the dudes there looking at her just... Yeah, you get dressed, baby girl. You get dressed. And she, of course, is asking, am I still pretty? Am I still good enough to be on the screen? And he's just like, well, 24 hours hasn't changed much in my perspective. I still think you're good. Oh, by the way, you left this, and picks up the hat. She goes over there and grabs it, and he pulls her in for a kiss. And it's like an aggressive but passionate kiss. And she's just like, okay, well, I gotta go. Wait, why don't I drive you home? Poor dude made a mistake there. So, as they're driving home, and, she's all cuddling up next to him and shit, they see an army guy walking. He's got a mask on, of course. And she turns around, she's looking at him. He's like, do you know him? Nah, I don't think so. And he's just like, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell people, who people are nowadays, especially with all the masks they're wearing. And I found that line kind of ironic because he's not just talking about the mask that everybody is conveniently wearing because of the Spanish flu, but Pearl's mask, her sanity mask. Like she's literally losing grip of reality here, where her dreams and reality are becoming one. And the fact that she can't hide this charade for too much longer. I mean, think about it. She just burned the hell out of her mother, burnt to a crisp. Her dad's paralyzed, still stuck at the dinner table, by the way. She still got the mess from the kitchen and all that shit. She's got this guy coming over. And she is just living off in this la-la fantasy land that this man's going to take her to Europe and it's going to be grand. That's not okay. But they end up, having that little conversation. And like I said, that's just ironic. It's just straight up ironic. Because, her mask is slipping and everything. So they get home, though. And she rushes on inside, get dad all ready. Make sure, apologizing to him for leaving him. Make sure mom's not making any noises. And eventually, she gets the projecting this guy to come in. And as he comes in, he takes off the hat and introduces himself. She walks over with all this confidence, like, I'm not gonna lie, all this fucking confidence, and just, like, cuddles up next to him and passionately kisses him right in front of her dad, who is now just, like, gasping in awe and shock, because, that's all he can do, is just gasp and gargle. So, she takes projecting this dude upstairs, and she's gonna get frisky and handsy with him. And while they're making out and talking about, oh, we're going to Europe, huh? Tell me more about Europe. There's this banging just constantly going on, and she's trying to ignore it, act like it doesn't exist. He, on the other hand's like, no, what if it's your dad? What if it's this? What if it's that? And pushes her off of him, gets up and goes, what's wrong with you? Nothing, everything's fine. Okay, so he goes downstairs to investigate, and of course he finds the kitchen in a mess. And she then magically, vampirely appears behind him and scares the shit out of him. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, this is my dog. He made a mess, so I locked him in the cellar. Why don't I show you this out? And she grabs him and like a little giddy schoolgirl takes him out to the barn. And she's like, these are all my animals, and names them all. And of course she named them after all her favorite actors in the movies at the time. And she's like, yeah, they're my greatest audience, the best audience, everything's great. And then he's just like, oh, well, that's great. So what about the dog? What dog? The dog in the cellar. We don't have a dog. So he's just standing there awkwardly, just like, but you just said you know what? Wow, would you look at the time? Would you, like, seriously, straight up, guy, like, straight up, like, there's, like, an awkward silence, and then he literally goes, well, would you look at the time? Like that, just like, he's got to get out of there. And she could tell, and we as the audience could tell, the mood has changed. And then this is where we get the infamous scene where she's just like, where are you going? You know, why you leave me? Why are you becoming so cold? And she's just listing off, you know, what is going on, because she doesn't get what just happened. You know, she thought everything was great because, again, she's in her barn, her fantasy world, in front of her audience. She's got this good-looking man that's been complimenting her nonstop, and he realizes something's not right here when she's talking about a make-believe dog and her dad being super weird and shit. So he wants out, and that's ruining her fantasy here, because he decided to stop being the cool, you know, cool, smooth-talking projectionist dude and become, I need to get the fuck out of here, dude. But she goes off and having a long-ass tantrum about being cold, and just the fact that he's lying to her, and he loses his cool and just goes, you're scaring me, Pearl. You're scaring me. I wish you luck in your audition, though. I'll see you around. Walks off. And what's great about that is that, you know, he tried to deflect that shit while she's just like, why are you leaving? You know, what's going on? You know, well, I'll catch you later. When? What time? It's just an expression. Like, he literally had an answer for everything, but he just couldn't handle it, and he tried to be nice about it by trying to get himself out of that situation, but eventually she cornered him, and he's just like, you are scaring the shit out of me, girl. Get the fuck away from me. But he gets back to the car. And of course, while he is standing there, he looks kind of saddened. Like, it seems like he's concerned, but sad at the same time, looking at this barn. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was not prepared for that freak out Pearl just had. You know, again, she flipped the switch on him. She was all like, "Oh my God, look at my animals, they're so great." What dog? Why are you leaving? What's going on? Like seriously, she went through 3 different emotions all in one fell swoop. Like, crazy shit. But he looks at the barn, and the guy should have been looking to his left, though, because there's Pearl with the fucking pitchfork again, and she screams on the top of her lung, I'm not staying on this farm, no one can keep me here, and then stabs him in the chest with it, and does it a couple of times until she loses her balance and falls back in the car. Just starts going because he accidentally put it in gear when he got stabbed. And as it's going, she's screaming with the pitchfork in hand, just, come back here, you're not leaving me. You ain't leaving me on this farm. And she gets to the car, and she's still just screaming at the top of her lungs, just, no one's going to keep me here. Not you, not mama, not daddy, nobody. And she fucking grabs him and throws him down on the ground, and then takes the pitchfork and just stabs him in the mouth with it, like straight up, just goes through pit, and she pushes it into the ground too, by the way. She puts her foot on top of it and all, like she wanted to make sure this man was dead. She gets done though, and she just walks the hell off, like, oh my God, like straight up, like that poor man just was not expecting that kind of freak out, and he met an untimely demise, but that's what he gets for sticking his dick in crazy. That's what I'm just saying. Rule, guys. Rule to follow in life. Don't stick your dick in crazy. If she seems too good to be true, it's either she's too good to be true or she crazy. Just remember that. And same thing with you, ladies. If he's saying shit that's too good to be true, he's either too good to be true or he's trying to get in your pants, 1 of the 2. So just be careful out there, people. You never know if you might meet a projectionist or a Pearl. Granted, though, I feel like the projectionist, it's a little easier to deal with than Pearl, because Pearl will just straight up kill you. But you know what? Hindsight's 2020. It depends on who you are. So after all of that, she ends up going inside the house. She cleans her dad up, and she opens up basement door after getting done with that, and as she's looking down at her mom, who's slowly alive, by the way, she's still alive. She's slowly trying to crawl up to the stairs, but she looks at her mom and uses the same words against her God, what was the exact words? I want you to remember how it feels, because every time you looked at me, that's how I felt. And then pushes her down the stairs some more, and then slams the door. Like, seriously, that woman has some vengeful thoughts against her mother. And I don't blame her. Again, that was cold to say that, just feeling disappointed at her child. Like, what Ruth said really, really stung. Like, not just Pearl, it stung me. Because, like, that's something terrible to say to your child. Every time I look at you, I just feel guilt. And again, I say jealousy. I say jealousy as well. Because of the fact that, like she said, she wanted to marry a man and be his wife. She wanted to, I guess, be a farmer and have her farmhand and have her doting, loving daughter and all this. She wanted this perfect farm family life. And then God said, "Nah, fuck you, Ruth. Fuck you." Struck her husband down with this terrible catatonic disease, with a psycho daughter that just won't listen. And again, it's mainly because it's just a vicious cycle of mom won't listen to daughter won't listen to mom. Nobody's listening or communicating. But I'm sure at one point they did communicate. And whatever stricken the dad, I think that was the start of the downfall of this family. Because as soon as he got this disease, I'm sure that's when she just stopped being this loving, caring woman. And you could tell, in the opening of the movie, when we're going through the house and we're looking at Pearl getting dressed for her little fantasy, we get to see the family photos. And we see they used to be happy and shit. So, it's kind of sad on both parts that Ruth just, again, content in her misery. That she had to bring Pearl down to her misery. But Pearl, now with a new form of life strutting through her, she's feeling good. She killed that projectionist dude. She ends up cleaning him up and getting rid of his body. And she does it in such a dramatic fashion. She puts his body in the car and pushes him out. And she's like, "Au revoir, Johnny." Au revoir. All dramatic shit to feed him to the gator. But she ends up getting ready to go to her dance audition. She wears that beautiful red dress that we see in the cover of everything. And she is confident. But she walks downstairs. She asks her dad, "What do you think, Daddy? Do I look good?" And Dad, all he could do is muster up a grunt and a tear down his eye. And, of course, Pearl does not take that very well, so she grabs a pillowcase and goes, "Daddy, I know this is no life for you to live, but I just want you to know you are loved." She kisses him, and then smothers him to death with the pillowcase. She grabs her suitcases, though, once that's done, and she heads off to her audition, thinking, this is it, this is the big break. And, of course, her sister-in-law is there. They're sitting down, they're chit-chatting, I'm surprised, you were a little late, I had to do chores. And as they're going, we see one after another of a girl coming out and crying, upset. Because we all know, yes, next. Nobody cries like that because they got the part. And as they're chit-chatting, Mitzi looks at her and just goes, it's supposed to be tough. They're only picking one girl per area, so, it's going to be tough. And Pearl, without missing a beat, just like, and it's going to be me. Oh, Pearl, I don't think you meant to say that out loud. Huh, well, if it ain't you, it's me, like they always say. No, it has to be me. Like, Pearl is determined to get this role. And she's full of confidence, though, and she just feels so much of herself right here and there. And, of course, Missy's just like, I'm scared. Why don't you go next? I just can't. Why don't you go and makes her go next? So Pearl walks in, and she, of course, is a little nervous. So the way we're hearing it as the audience, everything's a little muffled. But, like the footsteps and the people talking to her, just the sounds in general. And as she's walking up to in the X on the stage, and she's all stoic and looking all great, and the woman starts playing on the piano, and Pearl just dances. I'm talking about smile from ear to ear. She's all into it. She's like in her own little daydream as well, where like fucking soldier girls are coming out dancing with her on a chorus line. She's got fireworks going off, fucking airplanes and shit. She's all in it, and she's feeling confident as hell, and she's doing a great job, fantastic job. And she's all into it though, and at the end she's standing there with her arms up, her head back, she's smiling, you can hear the applause going, and then everything goes quiet, and all we hear is, "That's nice, but no, it's gonna be a no." And she's just like, "What? What do you mean a no? You're just not what we're looking for. But this is the best dancing I've ever done. Like, this is the best dance I've ever did. Like, why not?" And when I'm missing a fucking beat, this dude's just like, "Oh, we're looking for someone, younger, blonder, all-American, the X Factor. And you just don't have it. We have other girls just like you on the line. We're looking for that X Factor." And this just breaks her. This was just the former reality. This is somebody whose dreams were just shattered in her face. And not just shattered, no, destroyed, buried, forgotten, just tossed out like sad garbage on a Sunday night. She starts wailing. I'm talking about just screaming, wailing, just like pain. You can feel it. She's screaming, "Just give me one more chance. Just give me one more chance. Please. Just one more. Why? Help. Someone please help me." And they're pulling her off the stage. And we then cut to her just sitting there crying, just defeated by everything. Her whole life is just over. Everything she worked so hard to be just done. Her sister-in-law walks out and it's just like, "Hey, why don't I walk you home?" So, they get home and she's trying to lighten the mood up. She's like, "Oh, what do those silly old church people know about good dancing anyway? Like, they don't know anything." They're old group, the sister-in-law is trying to help. But Pearl's just like, "No, it's me. I think something's wrong with me. Like, I'm missing something that everyone else has." "Well, have you talked to Howard?" "No, I haven't told anybody what I really feel out loud." So, Mitzi, hearing that just goes, "Well, why don't you pretend I'm Howard? Tell Howard how you really feel. Tell me how you would feel." And she's like, "Well, I've never done this." And she's like, "Oh, you got this. You got this. Just pretend I'm Howard." So, Pearl closes her eyes and she's like, "Howard, come on. You can say, just pretend come on, you got this." So she goes again, just, "Howard, I wish you were dead. I hate that you," like straight up. Okay, she doesn't say, "I wish you were dead," but she does say, "Howard, I hate you, and for leaving me here, that I wish you didn't come back from war, that I wish you died in war." And this is the monologue, by the way. This is the monologue that is over 6 minutes long, and it literally is like a confession of getting everything off of her chest about her actual feelings towards everything and everyone and what she's done throughout this whole movie. It's right here. She talks about how she hates Howard for leaving her and wanting him to die in war because he was supposed to be her ticket out, because he comes from a family of wealthy. And she makes a mention about how she's jealous of her sister-in-law, technically jealous of Howard's family, for being wealthy and getting blessed, and God never answers her prayers, but always seems to answer everybody else's prayers. And so she thought Howard was supposed to be her ticket out. She got married to Howard because he was a farmhand, and it was bliss for a minute. He took her to that rich side. It was just like how she saw it on television, how grand it was, how beautiful it was. But then he brought her back to reality. He wanted to be a farm man. He wanted to be a farmer. And she's just like, you know how much I hate this farm. You know how much I want to leave this place. This place is terrible. And I hate it. It's rotten. It sucks. It stinks. And all the shenanigans. And he liked it. And of course, he decided to go to war too, to stick it to his family. Because fuck the family. And so he went to war, leaving her there. But before he left her there, she was pregnant. And she talks about being pregnant like it's a terrible thing. She hated being pregnant. She was just like, I could feel it festering inside me, just making me sick and nauseous. And I couldn't stand it just growing there. How am I supposed to take care of somebody when I can't take care of myself? And what's funny about this, in this entire monologue, we keep cutting back to Mitzi, who's just sitting there, completely uncomfortable, by the way. Like, everything she's saying is making her completely uncomfortable. But Pearl continues on about how she was happy about having a miscarriage, and that, she was thrilled, but then upset because Howard left to go fight the war after the miscarriage. And, she proceeds to talk about how she cheated on Howard, and how she felt bad about it at first. And she still feels bad. She kind of regrets it. But, she was a lonely woman who just really needs somebody, someone to listen to, someone to talk to. And that, maybe her mom was right. Her mom was always right about her, that, she can't be perfect and pretty like all those other girls. She's not like that. That she is ugly and plain and not perfect and unfunny, and everything her mom said was true. And she literally feels that way. Everything her mom said was true. And then she starts talking about the murders. She starts talking about, I feel regret for killing Daddy because, Daddy was a good person, but there was no way to live like that. And I understand what Mom was trying to do. Mom was trying to keep me safe and protected, but that already happened, and you had to protect this. And she just keeps going on and on about that, and about how the feeling made her happy for a moment, but rot is festering in her. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about the themings of this movie. There's a lot of rot in this. And again, the pig, I didn't make a mention of it, but the projectionist, while he's waiting outside for Pearl to bring him inside, he's looking at the pig that's covered in maggots, and it's getting worse and worse. It's only been a couple of days at this point, but it's getting worse and worse. And even Mitzi noticed it before she walked in. The pig is now losing part of his normal pig shape and shit. The maggots are just infested it, and just like her feelings, it has infested and boiled inside of her, to the point that she's now accepted that this is her. She's not perfect. She's not good. She's not okay. Seriously, we need an MCR to come up and start singing, I'm not okay. It's seriously, she needs that or something. But she keeps going on that she needs to make things right, that she can make things right. Maybe she can clean up and make that perfect little house that Howard wanted. Basically contenting herself to be here on the farm with Howard, because at this point her dreams have now been crushed and ruined. She has nothing else to live for, so all she needs is somebody to at least be there. Now she just needs someone to be there, because everybody who was there, she has done killed. The projectionist, her dad, her mom, they're all dead. And she even says that near the end, just don't leave me. Just stay with me. All I want is to be loved. That's all I want. And so now she's kind of leeching on to Howard now, as he's the reason for her existence now. She originally had this dream of dancing. Well, now that's done and over. So now her dream, or I should say her second dream, it's now just to be happy and content here on the farm. And that's a sad factor in a lot of people's realities, that, you know, even their second dreams, their first dreams, they don't succeed, you know, because something comes up, something happens, it doesn't fall through. And it crushes you, but you learn to move on, and you settle down for your second dream, or your third dream, or even your fourth dream. And eventually, it's how far do you settle before you're just content in your misery or content with your happiness? You gotta find that nice fine balance between content for your happiness and content for your misery. And yeah, some people go out there, they have their dreams, they're able to succeed in their dreams, and that's good for them. That's good for a lot of people out there. Like, seriously, live your dreams, live your life. But harsh reality is not everyone can succeed that, and that is, you know, that's just the truth of the matter. It sucks, it truly does, but that's just how it is. But she unfortunately didn't have a second dream, so she's more content in her misery of being on the farm. So that's the sad part. She ends up following her mother's footsteps, becoming her mother yet again, being jealous of the younger people, being content in her misery at the farm, just being the doubting wife. You know, granted, that's literally what her mom wanted to be, just a loving wife, but that's not what she wanted to be, and she didn't want to be a mother either. So after that wonderful, wonderful monologue, seriously guys, it's a beautiful monologue. I didn't say everything she said because again it goes on for 6 minutes, but it's a beautiful monologue. Look it up, it's great. But after that, the sister-in-law sits there, just like the projectionist in awkward silence, just, I'm gonna go now. And she slowly sits up. And Pearl's just like, you don't think I'm crazy, do you? Oh, no, you're not crazy at all. Nonsense. No, you're okay. You're okay. And she's just like, oh yeah, by the way, congratulations on getting the part. And she's like, what? I didn't get the part. No, don't play coy with me. Congratulations. And Mitzi, of course, you know, play it off like she didn't get the part when we all know, even before she says something, she got the fucking part because she's the exact type they were looking for. Young, blonde, all-American girl. But Mitzi tries to play coy for a minute till Pearl's just like, don't lie to me, my feelings won't be hurt. And she smiles to me and goes, I got the part, I'm super excited. Yeah, of course you did, because you're always given everything in life. You could tell from that moment right there. What's weird, okay, not weird, but what's great about this scene is the fact that, again, she's been crying, she's been upset this entire time, and then suddenly she came down, just being all nice and casual, just, oh, my feelings won't be hurt, no. And as soon as the words escaped her mouth saying, oh yeah, I got the part, it was like a knife just dug into Pearl's heart, twisted it around. She just got angry again. It was just like, of course you fucking did, because you get everything in life. There went my pen. So Mitzi, you know, nonchalantly, is just like, okay, well, I'm going to go now, and I'm not going to say anything. I promise, I'm not going to say anything. And Pearl's like, yeah, you're right. I know you won't, you know, I'm going to make this better. We're going to fix this. So Mitzi slowly starts walking out, just very tense-like. And as she's slowly walking out, we see Pearl just smiling, slowly walking out too. Walks down the stairs, grabs an axe. Fucking Mitzi starts taking off running because she's seen this horror movie before. She's screaming for help, running down the driveway. Fucking Pearl's right on her ass with the axe. Unfortunately, Mitzi falls like a typical horror movie bitch. Stands up, Pearl's behind her, starts swiping at her, gets her in the back again. As soon as that third strike hits, she falls down, she rolls over, and Pearl's standing on top of her, holding the axe. And she's like, please, don't do this, just let me live, don't kill me, please. And Pearl's just like, it's not about what you want. It's about making the best of what you got. And then slams the axe down on her sister-in-law, killing her. And of course, she ends up going back to her mom in the basement. And her mom done died at this point. Mom crawled over to the other side and died at the other exit to the basement. She walks up to her mom. She holds her mom, close to her, and she cuddles with a dead body. And she hears her mom singing in German to her. And it's a beautiful little nursery rhyme. And as this is going on, it's a very artsy moment of like a dual reflecting moments of her dismembering her sister-in-law's body, feeding it to the gator, cleaning up the house, setting the dinner table, bringing out the maggot-infested pig, putting it on the table, moldy food and shit like that, just all over the place. And she's going to try to have a normal family dinner. And she brings her mom up and brushes her hair and makes sure everybody looks good. And then at the end of her little fantasy of snuggling with her mom, it's like her mom's really there. And it's the only time Pearl speaks German, by the way. Her mom speaks it up and down throughout the entire movie with very little English. Pearl, on the other hand, speaks a lot of English but very little German. But the only thing she says in German is, I love you too. And that's because her mom's like, I love you. Which again adds what I was saying earlier about there used to be love in this family. I'm sure there was a lot of communication and love with this family. But love got lost when Dad got sick. So, unfortunately, now we have come to near the end of the movie, where Howard has finally come home. And he gets off the little bus, and he's like, yes, I got a wife waiting for me at home. I'm so excited. And he comes running on in. He's like, Pearl, darling, I'm home. Pearl. And walks to the kitchen and sees the dinner set up, dead parents and all. And he's like, Jesus. And he turns around, and there's Pearl holding a glass of lemonade. And she's like, Howard, I'm so glad you're home. Just smiling. But the smile is not the smile she had like when she was dancing on stage. It is a painful, forced smile. Like she's got to force herself to be happy that Howard's home and that this is life. Like it's painfully long too, because as the credits are rolling, she keeps it to the point that it starts breaking and she starts crying, but she still holds that smile, and it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching at the end, especially when she starts, just full-on crying and everything. But, yeah, unfortunately, that's where we leave Pearl at. As we know, when we talk about X next week, we know she did not ever get to experience her dream. This is why she's jealous. She ends up recurring what her mom ended up doing, which is sad, because that's what she wanted to avoid. She didn't want to become her mom, but unfortunately she became her mom in this whole movie. And it's sad. But this is a great character development movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is a great, not character development, character study movie. Because you get to see the slow decline into mental unwellness. Like, you see the signs. We get to watch this as it happens. And it's incredible, especially when you see her in X as well, which, again, that's just going to be fun to talk about when we get there. Because, again, I like both these movies for their own different genres of movies. Pearl's very clean-cut, very old-school 1920s. But I love the grind field of X as well. But, yeah, Pearl, this is a really good psychological, kind of psychological horror, because again, we're learning about Pearl and about her trial and error and her triumphant craziness and everything, and what led her down this terrible, terrible path of, murdering a bunch of teenagers when the time comes. I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of glad I did learn it. Because it adds more to her character and more sadness behind her character. Because, again, she wanted to actively avoid being on the farm and being like her mother. And that's, unfortunately, who she became. Her mother and staying on the farm. And she didn't want that. And she's now just forced to be content in her misery. Thus is why she acts the way she does towards her husband in the next movie. It's just straight up. He was the only happiness she had, and now that he's not fulfilling her happiness meter, she needs a new thing of life. It doesn't matter how old she is, she needs to find it. But yeah, great movie, guys. Y'all haven't seen it, I highly do recommend it, especially if y'all want to check out the podcast for next week because they are tied together. Granted, this is an origin story. I think they call, oh god, what do they call it? Oh, hang on a second. I gotta flip back to my notes real quick. An extraordinary origin story, I think is what they called it. Love it though. 10 out of 10 would definitely recommend this movie. Mia Goth is a fantastic actress. She is wonderful. She's a great screen queen. Great killer. I'm not gonna lie, great killer. And I cannot wait to talk about her performance as Older Pearl in the movie as well, because she did a great job as that. I want to say she did the Older Pearl. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong though, because again, I only saw the movie the one time last year. But we'll get there when we get there. We'll find out next week. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the podcast here. I hope everybody who has watched is watching will watch. I hope you enjoy. I hope everybody has a fantastic and a wonderful night. And as you're watching this video here on YouTube or anywhere such as Spotify or Anchor, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe, and maybe quite possibly a comment down below, because you never know what's going to happen here. Trust me, I never know. I try my best to keep y'all up to date on the schedule, but y'all never know. I never know. Like I said, guys, next week we'll be doing X, and then I will say I'll give you a little hint for the 2 weeks following for our official July summer kickoff for the summer horror treat. And it's a very iconic horror movie. And no, not Jason. No. Think something a little bit more deeper in the ocean. But that's a story for another day. So until then, my friends, y'all take care.